was working for another radio station here in town, and the guy that taught me all about radio on that said, I think I'll take you over to WAVE and talk to the manager there, because I know the engineering manager. And I said, okay. So I went over and we talked with him for a while. And he said, well, I don't need anybody for about a month. He said, well, that's all right. He needs to turn in a resignation for 2 weeks anyway. He says, oh, hell, just go ahead and quit anyway and come on over and start working. So I started, that was in 48, and I worked until 88 and hated to leave. They planked me down in radio to start with so that some of the other engineers that have been here longer could bump around and learn all about the TV. And up the process, I learned how to spin the records here and that, and went on up, and eventually I got started handling cameras and other stuff, and engineering, repairing stuff occasionally. And then they transferred me back to the radio because I was good at spinning records and that, and they did commercials. And so I had a friend named Alan Brown who was an announcer, and so he and I worked together for about 5 years doing commercials. So we had a good time. Did the lighting for that opera on that huge power board and that back there, and we had a copy of the script and that so that I'd know exactly when to switch the lights to another section for it.
You are about to see Beatrice, the first full-length opera by a radio and television station. Tonight, WAVE, in dedication of its new radio and television center, presents the world premiere of Beatrice, a 3-act opera by Lee Hoybe, composer, and Marcia Nardi, librettist.
Did sound handled film, video for film, and then switched over to handling the 2-inch tapes. And then they cut down to 1-inch tapes, and about that time they'd gotten in another new machine, and about 4 months later they kicked me out. Said, you just spent your 40 years in here, it's time to go. So anyway, I hated to leave, but they told me it was time to go. So I've been out wandering around trying to find a job ever since. And I've just flipped the 90-year mark at the end of March, so I guess my flipping is about done. I've had more fun with all of them. Livingston Gilbert, I used to work with him. He was the best announcer, news announcer that you ever heard. He really had a good voice. And then Bill Gladden and I used to go down and do all the Democratic city county elections and that. We used to report on those. And when Pee Wee King and the other bands would come into town, they did shows at some of the furniture stores, and I'd go down and handle the sound for it. So I've been around the whole thing. Bought or rented, I don't know which one, the Baptist building that was at Preston and Broadway, and they cleaned out the whole second floor of the thing where they had an auditorium and made a TV station out of it. They started out NBC, and they kept going with them. That's where we've been ever since. That's when we first went on TV, we didn't have any programs. We'd run film programs and that, and when they first started out, we'd just do a couple of hours a day. And then from that, we started to stretch it out, and they didn't have any programs to put in, so I came up with the idea, since I used to do a lot of repair work and that, to put a Freddie Fix-It on. So they had a half-an-hour show, Freddie Fix-It, once a week when I'd get on and answer people's questions on the telephones and that, tell them how to repair stuff. So that was most fun, I guess. When we first started out, we were on Channel 5. That's what the Federal Communications Commission decided. And then they decided to open up more TV stations than that. Cincinnati had to have one, so it didn't match up with this. So they put us on Channel 3 then and gave Cincinnati Channel 5. So we've been on Channel 3 ever since. That was about 5 years after we started on TV. Well, the biggest fun we had was they had an elevator, and we tried to get a horse in the elevator once and bring the horse up to the top, and that was really a scream. But we finally managed to get it up, but that horse was really reluctant to go back down. It's been good to be here because I can remember a lot of it, but looking through the pictures and that, there's an awful lot of it I don't remember. Some of the group went out there with the remote bus that we had then on the thing, but I was just as happy really not to go because the cables in those days were about that big, and to carry 25 feet of it around, you had to really hustle, so I was happy to get out of that. Well, I love TV3, of course. Well, the name badge, when they started to work here, they took your picture and put it on like they're doing with everybody these days. And then when TV started up real good, they gave me another one. And they didn't recognize the fact that I had two badges, so what came the time that I left and that, I just gave them a radio badge and kept the TV badge. So I've used that ever since. I carry it all the time with me. Yes, I do watch 3-2 and 3-3. Of course, they give you a lot of extra programs. The only thing is that the Courier-Journal does not put down there what the programs are going to be on that. You just have to tune it in to find out what's coming up next. Now really, you can ask the wife. I usually put Channel 3 on all the time, and I especially like their NBC's programs on the thing. About the only thing I do is turn it off when it's time to quit. All right, very good place to come and hang out. Wave 3.